Still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston Celtics still Poddable, still Poddable. Oh yeah! Still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston Celtics still Poddable, still Poddable. Banner 19.
Beat Rob, Jim, Becca, Jake King.
Still Poddable, still Poddable.
The Caesar on the court to get another ring.
Still Poddable, still Poddable.
Everybody in the chat now sing.
Still Poddable, still Poddable. Still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston Celtics still Poddable, still Poddable. Oh yeah!
Shut your ass up.
Daddy's always halfway there.
Welcome back to Still Poddable, the best Celtics podcast here on Al Gore's Internet. I am Sam Jam Packer, joined by Jay King from The Athletic, coming to you live on a Poddable post-game show after the Celtics go into Washington for the third time this season and walk away with a victory. We are doing this live on the YouTubes, on the Twitters, but if you want to catch it, or get a regular Celtics podcast from us, go to patreon.com/stillpoddable for podcasts Monday through Friday. Jay, I would say this was an ugly win. The Celtics had a bunch of turnovers, missed a bunch of free throws, but I would also say the Wizards are a bad basketball team.
They're so bad. They are. The Celtics, when you watch them, they play with a purpose almost all the time. They know what they want to get. They try their best to get it. They're looking to exploit a weakness. The Wizards are just out there just doing God knows what. Alex Sarr, one of the least efficient players I've seen in a long time. Jordan Poole breaks off Peyton Pritchard, makes a nice move, points at him, and screws up a wide-open three.
Had to pass out of it after the point. Jonas Valanciunas gets in the game, not a three-point shooter, just starts chucking threes.
Jonas, he went there and he just checked out, man. Like, Jonas is in Washington to get paid and
To get traded.
Get paid, add on a few LBs, and just relax.
He was a minus 21 in 9 minutes tonight. He was not.
It felt like it. That was one of those. It really felt like it. As soon as he got on the court, he just did some bad stuff, chucked up some ill-advised jumpers, and played very little defense. And boom, Celtics just hung a run on him.
I mean, is this the best outcome the Celtics could have hoped for with the whole NBA Cup? They get all of this rest, and then they get to play the Pistons and the Wizards? Like, that feels like just easy
Except
money for them.
Kristaps Porzingis tweaked something. They called it right heel pain. He didn't return to the game. He was only listed as questionable. So that's hopefully for the Celtics a promising sign. But you don't want to see the big fella limping around. It feels like every other game, once every 3 games, he's just tweaked something, and sometimes he walks it off. Sometimes this time he couldn't come back into the game. They got to get him healthy. They got to get him to stay healthy. He was great when he was on the court. I thought some of the other Celtics, including Jason Tatum, were just kind of messing around early, and Kristaps was like dominating on the glass. He had one possession where he got doubled in the post, found Peyton Pritchard for a wide open three, grabbed the offensive rebound after Pritchard missed it, and then found Jalen for a wide open three. Just a beautiful hustle basketball possession. And so it was a bummer to see him go out for the Celtics. Obviously, he's a big deal. They didn't have Al Horford tonight because he was resting. So they had to play a lot of Cornette and a lot of Nemi in the second half.
Yeah, and just for those worrying out there, Abby Chin did report that like when Kristaps went back to the bench, he was all smiles, which is kind of his thing, but didn't seem like it was like the worst injury. It is not the same foot that he had surgery on, but it is the same leg that he had, like that right calf strain. So maybe it's connected to that. They did have to go to Cornette a lot, and Cornette's having himself a December to remember. Some might even say. He just comes in. He could have got the elusive double-double tonight if he just knocked down his free throws or just
You've been wanting that double-double for years now.
For 2.5 years now, pretty much. He has not delivered, but I think he's just playing pretty solid basketball here. rebounding. He just was like a force on the glass, drawing a bunch of offensive fouls. If only he could finish an and one, then he would be maybe an all-star.
But his reactions to not finishing the and one were fun.
Yes.
He also there was a stretch, I think it was the beginning of the third quarter, where the Celtics offense just went dry. They couldn't hit anything. And then Pritchard came in and threw an alley to Luke Cornett kind of over the top of his head. And Cornett slammed it down. And then Pritchard got going a little bit, and it woke the Celtics up, kept the Wizards from getting any closer, kept that dry spell from extending any further. So Cornett had some big moments. I thought his physicality on the glass was good too. Celtics, obviously, they're a bigger, stronger, more mature team than the Wizards, and I thought one of the reasons the Wizards never came close is that the Celtics did enough of that stuff to kind of make sure that the Wizards never cut it close.
It was still like kind of a lackadaisical game, but you're like, as you said, the Wizards just don't seem to know what they're doing at all. They have a bunch of injuries, I'm sure. Like, still, that doesn't hurt. Like, a lot of the people who you would qualify as NBA talent was not ready for them. Like, other than Bilal's the only one who was like, and I guess Justin Champagnie. Those are the only two guys who I felt like made a positive impact on the court for the Wizards tonight.
Yeah, they.
But I fucks with Bilal,
and you know what?
Bilal heavy.
I will give Jordan Poole credit. Last year, I thought he was the single least serious player I've ever seen in my entire life. And this time he competed a little bit. He took a charge. He tried a little. Still does some very unserious things, but it's not as despicable as it was last season. Like, last year was probably, among all seasons that I've witnessed, just the least serious. It was so unserious.
Which is actually crazy because they're losing much more this year. They're in a worse position this year than they were last year. But that's partly because they're starting Alex Sarr. They're playing him big minutes. You're not going to win games when you're starting someone that bad at basketball. And I'm not discarding his chances of ever becoming a player. He's clearly a good athlete. If he ever shoots threes, it would be a good piece. But right now, he's a terrible three-point shooter who chucks them. And, like, for his size, for his athleticism, to be shooting, I don't know exactly how bad it is from the field. To be shooting whatever he is from the field is just disgusting. 39.3%. Yikes.
For a 7-footer freak athlete. Like, that's almost impossible.
I knew he was 26% from three, but like, to be, like you said, a 7-footer and not be cleaning up around the rim, that's pretty ugly. And the thing is crazy with the new lottery odds is like they're like destined to be the worst team in the league, but now it's more flattened out. Like, they're not. I guess this draft is more stacked, but it's not like they're like guaranteed to get Cooper Flagg, and so it feels bad for Wizards fans just to have to sit through just 2 years of awful teams, and it like you're betting a lot of money on Sarr, like maybe becoming good.
But they were long overdue.
Yeah, I don't know what else.
Ripping it apart. And,
I don't know what else
starting from scratch. And it seems like some of the moves they've made have been specifically with the idea that they're okay with losing. Like,
I think they're okay with.
They made Jordan Poole the centerpiece of things. Like I said, that they've been starting Alex Sarr from opening night of the season. They've
traded Advia.
Yeah, like basically every single thing they've done has been without even a second of thinking about how it impacts the team now, or going the other way and actively trying to get worse. So salute to them. Jonas Valanciunas signing was a masterstroke, absolute masterstroke in losing basketball games. It's been a tough season for Jonas.
It's not been a tough season for the Celtics because they've gotten to play the Wizards 3 times, but they are now 21-5. I mean, Jason Tatum, like it didn't feel like a very serious game, but he just did a casual 28-12. And then I feel like, as someone who's done a lot of these post-game podcasts this season, I've run out of ways to just like continue analyzing Peyton Pritchard being amazing, but he knocks down another 5 threes, leads the league in games with 5 threes made with 11, more than Anthony Edwards, more than Jason Tatum. He's just absolutely ridiculous at this point, and I don't know. You have to do this professionally. How do you keep on describing just the greatness that is Peyton Pritchard's season?
I liked the discussion Scal brought up on the broadcast today, which he asked, why wouldn't he win most improved player on top of 6th man of the year if he continues this? Because if Peyton Pritchard continues this, I don't know who else would be in the running for most improved, but he has to be one of the very most improved players in the league. I haven't really thought about it much. And so I liked that discussion. That's an interesting one. Like, do you limit him to just one award? Can he not? Is he excluded from winning most improved player because he's the front runner for 6th man of the year? He is so drastically improved. Like, it's ridiculous. And the numbers he's putting up, like, he's making more threes than almost anyone in the entire league. And he's coming off the bench and he's doing it in limited minutes. And tonight, like a lot of nights, the Celtics, they didn't have a great start. They didn't have a great start to the third quarter. And then Peyton Pritchard comes in, changes the energy, hits a few shots, gets everybody going, and they roll to an easy win. It feels like there have been a lot of nights like that this year where it doesn't really matter if they start crisply. I really thought this was like a low-energy game from Tatum. I know his stats were fine. He didn't have the best shooting line, but, like, he ended up with a totally fine stat line. But right off the bat, he, like, allowed Sarr to get an offensive rebound on him. He had a transition take foul after, like, just a frustration foul right away. It was just kind of like a not totally locked in, sloppy performance from him. A number of turnovers. There were a number of times I watched Jason Tatum was, like, just not at his sharpest today.
I didn't think.
And then Peyton Pritchard comes in, and it doesn't matter because Pritchard can dominate games himself.
I didn't think Jason or Jalen were particularly locked in, but then Jason still had some, like, cool moments, especially against Sarr. It feels like that's happened multiple times this year where he's just either shot over him, he did a cool spin move, like drove right past him for a dunk there in the first quarter. But you're right, and it gets us to Peyton Pritchard's phenomenal year this year, and it brings us to the still Poddable still. That's right, folks. We're looking at Peyton Pritchard dapping up Kemba Walker. And you might say, what has that got to do with anything? But the stat from our guy, Taylor Snow, Peyton Pritchard has reached 100 3-pointers faster than any player in Celtics history to start a season, doing it in 26 games. And he broke Kemba Walker's record of 100 threes in the first 27 games of the 2019-2020 season. Peyton Pritchard's doing this off the bench. It's an insane to be, like, lead any sort of category in Celtics history. I know the 3-pointer is new. One, that's just wild to be doing that off the bench. Two, people forget about how good Kemba Walker was to start that season before that knee injury.
Kemba offensively was so special. Even the playoff run that he had.
When he had his good nights, he's dropped, 40 against the Raptors?
He had the game winner against the 76ers. He destroyed the Raptors. They had to start doing a 1-on-1 on him while he was teammates with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Like, he was special offensively. And now Peyton Pritchard just passed his mark while doing it off the bench. Pritchard is just – his shot making has been ridiculous. There was one stretch today where it was like the one play – I think a fast break was him – and Jalen had the ball, or he found Jalen or whatever it was, and they should have gotten a layup probably.
Oh, yeah.
Instead, they looked for a 3, did not find a 3. It went from Jalen to Pritchard to Hauser, couldn't find a 3, and then Pritchard hit some nonsense at the end of a shot clock, like a super tough shot. I don't want to call it some nonsense because he's done that pretty regularly this year, but it was very, very difficult shot. And so they get 3 there. That put it to like 13, I think. And then the Celtics got to stop, and he came back and hit another really tough off-the-bounce 3. And it's just a back-breaking stretch. I feel like some of Pritchard's buckets are just backbreakers. because it takes a lot to try to stop the Celtics. It takes a lot to slow them down. And all of a sudden you get a 15 seconds stretch where Pritchard kills you at the end of a shot clock. Celtics get a stop, and then Pritchard hits some crazy step back shit in your eyeball. That's just a backbreaker. That kills you.
Especially like against in a more competitive games against like you're worrying spending all this time like how are we going to slow down Jason Tatum, and then Tatum comes off the court, or you're just like you're put a lot of attention to him, and you just have this guy who's consistently coming in and knocking down 5 threes, so scoring 20 points a game, and so there is just no rest for any team defensively when they're playing against the Boston Celtics. And I would say Pritchard winning Sixth Man of the Year should help his most improved case, because he was nowhere close to that. I didn't think that was going to happen necessarily going into this season. And it feels like the logic in it is that he should be capable of winning 2 awards. But for some reason, Scal talked about, or Drew talked about, like maybe there's pushback and you can't win 2. I don't think we've ever had the situation where there's been direct.
But you could win MVP and Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, I think it's dumb logic. I think
that's like. I think it's just because he's been so good, people haven't even thought about him for most improved, because they think of Sixth Man of the Year first. Also, it's like 25 games into the season.
Yeah, people don't think of most improved at this point.
Even bringing this shit up is probably dumb. Adam Himmelsbach just tweeted from DC that Porzingis said he banged his ankle early in the game and felt some discomfort, but sat out for precautionary reasons and thinks he'll play in the next game.
So it happened early in the game? Then why did NBC Sports Boston show footage of him grimacing in the pregame warmup? Huh, Jay King? Why were they just sitting on that footage? Also, if they thought it was newsworthy, why'd they wait to release it until after he got hurt?
Because he was absolutely dominant on the court, and it would have looked foolish maybe to show him grimacing before the game when he then came out.
Hey, I'm just asking questions, and you're just providing
wizards.
You're just providing answers. I'm just like that's what we did. I set it up. That's like an alley-oop there. Fair point there, Jay. Fair point. Do you have any other basketball observations before we get to the more nonsense portion of this evening's program?
I got a few. I said Tatum had a slow start, and I still think he had a slow start. Like, he did not have 100% energy right away. He finished the first quarter with 11, 6, and 2.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like, oh, Tatum's not really playing well. And then it was like spin move, dunk, drive, dunk, 8 points of the paint, a 3 at the end of the quarter, and he's got 11, 6, and 2. So
just casual.
He's pretty good. When you can have like not your best game and still finish with, I don't know exactly what he had.
20 and 12.
Only 2 assists. Weird only 2 assist game for Tatum. But yeah, when you can play not your best and do that, that's pretty good. Celtics just had offensive glass buckets in the first half were pretty big for them. Like, Porzingis had a couple. Cornette had the one where he went and grabbed it and found Derek White for 3. They just had some pretty key plays early on there as they started to extend the lead.
The Celtics' big passing, especially on offensive rebounds, but I just feel like all of their bigs are so good at finding guys on the three-point line, except for maybe one of their bigs who got more playing time in the second half. But their primary rotation bigs, Cornette, Porzingis, and Horford, I feel like all just do an excellent job, whether it's on the short roll or coming off the offensive rebound, of like finding the guy and making the right play.
Yeah. Other than that, there wasn't too much to discuss. It was really like just kind of a joke of a basketball game.
It was. Time for the junk drawer portion of the evening. I guess this isn't junk. I just wanted to press the button. Derek White, I feel like, is elite. One of his elite skills is knocking down threes off of a bad pass. And I think he had one there in the first half. It was like a kick out from Luke, but he, no matter, and I maybe I'm just saying this because I've seen him practice that drill, but I feel like anytime it's like a bad pass or he has to bend down to get it or it doesn't get to him directly, it feels like it's going in, and that's just an impressive skill from him.
And like you said, he practices that and like pretty diligently has one of the Celtics assistants throw him just terrible passes. And they'll roll him passes, they'll throw him way too high, they'll lob him like just to try to mess up his rhythm. And I do think that probably helps him get on rhythm quickly. He always seems to be in rhythm no matter what. Like he can be just regular catch and shoot in rhythm, bad pass in rhythm, going left, going right, just always seems to be in a good rhythm. And I don't think it was always that way for Derek White, but he spent a lot of time like training to make sure he did that. Semi Ojeleye used to do. I'm sure all the Celtics players do, but I used to see Shemi do it from time to time. He was never quite the shooter that Derek White has become.
No. All right, now it's time for the
hell of
real
a strong man, though.
He could throw a medicine ball against a wall that would shake the whole TD Garden, and he did after every single game. Okay, real junk portion of the evening. Did you know our man Chris Forsberg was going to be doing voiceovers for Visit Abu Dhabi?
I did not. They declined to alert me of that, I guess.
I feel like they should have.
Didn't get the press release on that one.
Good for Chris for getting the bag. I was shocked to hear his voice, but you know what? I hope they got a bag.
So do we think he got paid for that?
There are historically deep pockets over there. If he didn't get paid for that, he needs better representation.
But it's probably through NBC Sports Boston, which is his employer, which he might just have to do that.
No, we can text him and ask him, but he better have gotten the bag.
He could do some reporting here. I prefer it to leave it a mystery. Let's hope he got the bag.
Let's hope he got the bag. All right. There was one moment where Peyton Pritchard was. Do Peyton Pritchard and Jordan Poole have beef? Or is Peyton Pritchard just a feisty motherfucker who likes getting up in the business of any player? Because when he forced the backcourt violation and walked down the court, I believe he said, lip reading expert is like, I'm going to lock that motherfucker up. And I love a feisty Peyton Pritchard moment. And it feels like it's happening more regularly.
So I don't think it's beef, but Peyton Pritchard has a long memory, and they lost to Jordan Poole in the finals. And Jordan Poole made some key plays, and that feels like 7 lifetimes ago for Jordan Poole's career. But I would guess that's still part of it for Peyton Pritchard, maybe for the whole Celtics, but Pritchard might be the craziest competitor on the team. Probably is the craziest competitor on the team.
Do you think
they're a competitive group, but he's a little something.
Did Peyton Pritchard play in the 2022 finals?
Did Pritchard play? Yeah. He was in that rotation. That was before they went out and got Malcolm Brogdon.
Oh yeah.
And
that's why he was so pissed off, because they got out another guy and then he lost his role a little bit. Yep, that's fair. I don't have a lot of
Poole kind of had the heave god role. He hit a couple heaves in that one.
Maybe that's why Peyton's so upset.
He had to steal the heave god mantle back.
I don't have a lot of more junk other than what the hell was Keita doing when he caught that ball and just slammed it into the ground for a
that was an
turnover.
incredible sequence because Peyton Pritchard had just made a hustle play on an offensive rebound, but then tried to find somebody to save it to and could not find anyone, threw it to the Wizards. And then Nemi gets back on D and gets the ball, retrieves it, and then just chucks it out of bounds. Just chucks it out.
Not just out of bounds.
But then he intercepted the inbound pass. So no harm, no foul. Nemi got it back. He had another incredible moment later on where
was it when he absolutely traveled and then just threw up a ridiculous shot?
Yes. It was when Tatum had the roll but couldn't catch it, and the ball went to Nemi, and he tried to do some nasty ass reverse layup, just a disgusting ass reverse layup, and missed everything but the backboard. And it was that was just a wild for a guy who's as athletic as he is, could have taken his time going up and dunked it. He was just like twisting, lurching, just kind of put it backwards over his head. It was a wild ride for Nemi tonight. Yeah,
but you know what? It's always kind of a wild ride with Nemi. And And that's all I got. It was like it wasn't the most engaging game for me to be taking a lot of notes on the Wizards broadcast, unless you got takes on Gee Whiz.
There was one more piece of junk that I enjoyed quite a bit.
Oh, let me press the button for you. Let me press the button for you.
Thanks. I appreciate that. We already. I don't even know whether I should start or whether I'm going to get interrupted here by
proceed,
the junk
please.
throwdown. The one more piece of junk was after a whistle. I think there was a foul call. Cornette was not going to let Koulibaly get off a shot.
I did see that, yeah.
and it was like just kind of shoved him in midair, like just was not going to let him make a shot after the whistle. And it got me thinking, like, just how crazy is Joe Mazzulla that Luke Cornette is
had to enforce that. He knew he would have got reamed in by the bench if he didn't.
Yeah, because Luke Cornette, like, obviously very competitive dude, gets offensive rebounds, gets blocks, always in the right position. Doesn't seem like that level of crazy where he's gonna like push you after a whistle to make sure that you don't get in a rhythm while you're down 15 in a game your team has no chance of winning. However, Joe's voice had to be ringing in his ear. He had to have Joe in some film session just eviscerate him because he let someone get a basket. I need to find out the reason why Luke Cornette was so intent on not letting Bilal Koulibaly score after the whistle on that one.
It feels like that's just like the team rule. Like it's just probably been hammered into them. We had Joe Mazzulla contesting shots on the court last year, and so I think it's just probably been drilled into him. And maybe Luke Cornette's been been lit up in the film room because he didn't do it once. But I remember that play and be like, I was a little taken aback that Luke Cornette was like shoved Bilal there. But Bilal didn't seem too upset. But I hadn't made the connection that it was a downstream effect of crazy Joe Mazzulla. So
Joe contested Royce O'Neal by himself last year. So you have to think that this is a top-down thing. And it is just a mission. Do not let someone get a rhythm after the whistle. And Luke Cornette took that very literally. Bilal was not going to score. He was not going to see the ball go through the basket on that one. It was just a little something extra. It didn't cause any beef, but I feel like something like that could have. If that happened to me, I feel like I would have been upset.
I feel like you absolutely would have upset.
I would have snapped.
You know what, Jay? That's an excellent piece of junk. That's going to do it for us, folks. If you're watching here on YouTube or Twitter, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. But if you want to catch the rest of our podcast Monday through Friday, go to patreon.com/stillpoddable. If you miss the next post-game Poddable, you can get it on the Patreon. You only can watch it live here, and then we take it off the internet. So the best place to get our content Monday through Friday from me, from B-Rob, and from Jay King is go to patreon.com/stillpoddable. We got more podcasts for you the rest of the week. So sign up today, and we'll be back with more Still Poddable. Thank you guys for watching. I'm going to play the song again.
Still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston Celtics still Poddable, still Poddable. Oh, yeah.
Go down from eating and drinking and all that wild stuff.